Australia, the land of kangaroos, the place where every living creature is secretly plotting your demise. A first world country with third world internet speeds. It's the only travel destination where just down the road means 200 kilometres, and your road trip playlist better include 3 seasons of a podcast. The weather's upside down, Christmas is in summer, and you'll probably eat an animal here that's on the endangered species list somewhere else. Australia divided itself into 6 states because apparently chopping it into 50, just like America, was too much paperwork. 6 states, 1 territory, and a whole lot of rivalry. The second largest of them, Queensland, is our first stop. If Australia is already dangerous, Queensland is where it goes pro. This is the state where tourists underestimate everything and pay for it, where locals are weirdly relaxed about crocodiles in their backyard, and where the phrase "she'll be right" has been stretched to cover jellyfish stings, shark bites, and floods the size of Belgium. First, the basics. Queensland is massive, a state that stretches across the northeastern part of Australia, covering an area of 1.85 million square kilometres. That's twice the size of Texas. And yet, just about 5.5 million people live here. Most of them squeeze along the coast in the southeast corner around Brisbane, the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast. The rest of the land is a mix of reef, rainforest, desert and endless sky. It's known as the Sunshine State. That's partly a branding slogan, partly the truth. Subtropical and tropical climates, blue skies that last for weeks, winters that feel like mild spring in Europe, summers that swing between golden and unbearable, depending on where you are. It's Australia's holiday state, where people from colder southern cities, Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide, fly north to defrost on the beaches. Travelling in Queensland sounds romantic until you actually do it. Cairns to Brisbane looks easy on the map, just a line down the coast. In reality, that's 1,700 kilometres of sugarcane fields, roadworks and roadside diners where the chips are older than you. Public transport? Sparse once you leave the southeast corner. Buses and trains are slow, and flights are your best bet if you value your sanity. Brisbane has traffic, of course. Bad enough to keep locals complaining, not bad enough to impress London or Los Angeles. Up north, traffic means waiting for a herd of cattle to cross the highway, or slowing down because an emu decided the middle of the road was its runway. Distances are ridiculous, and public transport in regional areas is basically a rumour. Oh, there's a bus. Sure, my friend, once a week on a Wednesday at 3 a.m. And if you miss it, well, too bad. Tourism is huge here, almost 30 million domestic and international visitors a year. That's more than 5 times the state's population. Why? Because Queensland is Australia's postcard. The reef, the beaches, the islands, but also the rainforest, the desert and the adventure. The Great Barrier Reef alone draws millions. Snorkeling, diving, sailing. The Whitsundays with Whitehaven Beach, often called the most beautiful in the world. Inland, people chase dinosaur footprints in Winton, visit Aboriginal rock art, or explore national parks with hiking trails and waterfalls. The Gold Coast sells itself with surf breaks and nightlife. Families go for the theme parks, Dreamworld, SeaWorld, Movie World. Backpackers flock to Cairns for reef trips, adrenaline sports and bar crawls. Honeymooners drift toward Hamilton Island or Port Douglas. It's a state that markets itself as adventure, but also as relaxation, both extremes, often in the same trip. Queensland's wildlife alone could fill an instruction manual. Crocodiles rule the rivers, box jellyfish patrol the beaches, sharks keep swimmers humble, snakes and spiders are standard. Then there's the weather, cyclones in the north, flooding in the south, bushfires anywhere there's something dry enough to burn. Before we continue, please hit the like button to support our channel. Brisbane is Queensland's capital, its beating heart, and the place where most journeys through the Sunshine State begin. With 2.6 million residents, it's Australia's third largest city after Sydney and Melbourne. But unlike its southern rivals, Brisbane has always had a slightly different energy. Warmer, slower, sometimes underestimated. For years, other Australians called it a big country town, which was meant as an insult. These days it's grown into a modern international city, yet it hasn't lost that subtropical friendliness. Brisbane doesn't sit on the ocean like Sydney, instead it wraps itself around the Brisbane River, which bends through the city in wide loops. The river defines Brisbane. Its bridges, ferries and riverside paths give the city both beauty and chaos. It floods, it shines, it reflects the skyline. On both banks you'll find high-rise apartments, restaurants and promenades. The climate is subtropical. Winters are mild, summers are humid, thunderstorms dramatic. For travellers, it means you can enjoy the outdoors almost year-round. Brisbane's history starts off as grim as you'd expect. European settlement arrived in 1824 when the British established a penal colony for repeat offenders from Sydney. The place was harsh, isolated and not designed for free settlers, but by 1842 restrictions lifted and the city began to grow. By the late 19th century, Brisbane was a frontier capital, less glamorous than Melbourne or Sydney, but steadily expanding. It became the capital of Queensland when the state separated from New South Wales in 1859. World War II transformed the city when Brisbane served as the headquarters for General Douglas MacArthur, leader of Allied forces in the Pacific. His old office is now a small museum. Today, Brisbane is looking ahead to an even bigger spotlight. It will host the 2032 Summer Olympic Games, a milestone that will once again change the city's profile on the global stage. Brisbane's bull sharks are thrilled about the Olympic triathlon competition. Finally, an all-you-can-eat buffet delivered straight into the Brisbane River. South Bank is Brisbane's showpiece, a leafy riverfront with museums, art galleries, food markets and, for reasons only Queenslanders can explain, a fake beach plonked in the middle of the city. Yes, they built a chlorinated lagoon so locals could swim while staring at office towers. Laugh if you want, but on a 35°C day you'll be elbowing kids out of the way to get in. The Brisbane River is not pretty, yet it's the backbone of the city. Ferries zip along it, carrying commuters and tourists alike. If you want the most affordable Brisbane tour, just hop on one. The Story Bridge is Brisbane's most recognisable piece of architecture. Built during the Depression in the 1930s, it remains a vital transport link and a city icon. Yes, you can climb it. Sydney did it first. Brisbane copied, slapped a cheaper price tag on it and called it Experience. The view is great though. Sweeping skyline one way, mountains the other, and the ugly river beneath. Fortitude Valley is Brisbane's nightlife district. It's affectionately called the Valley. Here you'll find bars, clubs and live music venues, alongside Chinatown and boutique shops. It's not always polished, but it's lively and gives Brisbane a grittier, more urban edge. Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary is Australia's oldest and largest koala sanctuary. It's the place where tourists queue to hug an animal that spends 20 hours a day asleep and would rather not be touched. Dating back to the 1820s, the Brisbane City Botanic Gardens are among the oldest public spaces in Australia. Located along the river, they're filled with subtropical plants, fig trees and quiet paths. The Mount Coot-tha Botanic Gardens are bigger, better and actually feel like nature. Every city has a lookout point. For Brisbane, it's Mount Coot-tha. You drive up, look at the skyline, take a photo and then realise the coffee at the cafe costs more than your flight to Brisbane. Yes, Brisbane is a city, but don't get too comfortable. The wildlife doesn't care about urban boundaries. Snakes show up in backyards, spiders in bathrooms, and every so often a bull shark uses the river as a fun hangout spot. The heat will cook you if the humidity doesn't drown you first. And let's not forget floods. Every decade or so, Brisbane turns into Venice, but without gondolas. The city's transport is serviceable, but driving, that's the real experience. Brisbane's roads were probably designed by a committee of drunk kangaroos. Streets change names halfway along, highways suddenly end in roundabouts, GPS systems have nervous breakdowns. And the traffic? It's polite but passive-aggressive. People let you merge, eventually, with a sigh. Cyclists appear out of nowhere, fearless, often shirtless. Parking is either impossible or stupidly expensive, unless you're willing to walk 6 blocks in the heat. And if the Brisbane River floods, traffic just gives up entirely. The Gold Coast is Queensland's attempt at glamour. Some call it paradise, others call it tacky. Both are correct. Administratively, it's the city of Gold Coast, a proper local government area. That makes it legally a city with its own council and mayor. Geographically, it's literally a stretch of coast in southeast Queensland, running along 70 kilometres of sandy beaches. That's where the name came from in the 1950s, real estate agents hyping it up as the Gold Coast. In everyday speech, Australians also use Gold Coast to mean the broader urban and hinterland region. It's not just surfers' paradise and the beaches. If you drive west, you're still in the Gold Coast when you hit the jungle. Around 650,000 people live here, which makes it Australia's sixth largest city. But that number triples when you count the travellers and seasonal residents. The locals are a mix of retirees who wanted sunshine, tradies who wanted work, and 20-somethings who wanted a lifestyle brand. Everyone else just comes for the theme parks. Once upon a time, this was all swamp, sugarcane fields, and sleepy beach towns. Then developers smelled money, bulldozed the scenery, and built towers. By the 1950s, it was already marketed as a sunny playground. By the 1980s, surfers' paradise had morphed into a concrete jungle with a beach attached. Today, the Gold Coast sells itself as both family-friendly and nightlife-heavy, which means you can go from cuddling a koala at 2 p.m. to watching someone throw up on Cavill Avenue at 2 a.m. The Gold Coast has an airport at Coolangatta, convenient if you want to skip Brisbane altogether. Locals will tell you to take the train or tram, but in reality you'll end up on the M1 motorway, cursing as you crawl along at 30 kilometres per hour while staring at billboards for theme parks. The people come for the beaches, Surfers' Paradise, Burleigh Heads, Coolangatta, Currumbin, all long stretches of sand where you can pretend you know how to surf. Surf lifesavers patrol the beaches. The skyline of Surfers' Paradise is among the tallest in Australia, with Q1 Tower once holding the title of the world's tallest residential building. There are some nice theme parks: Warner Brothers Movie World, Dream World, Sea World, Wet n Wild, childhood wonderlands or overpriced hellscapes, depending on your tolerance for queues and screaming children. If you drive 20 minutes inland, you'll suddenly find rainforest and waterfalls. Lamington National Park, Springbrook, Tamborine Mountain. It's like the Gold Coast keeps its classy side hidden. This region is special because it embodies the modern Australian holiday dream. The surf culture here is both authentic and commercial. Within Australia, the Gold Coast is both mocked and adored. Southerners think it's all high-rises and no soul. Queenslanders defend it as fun. The truth lies somewhere in between. It's not elegant like Sydney, nor cool like Melbourne. It's unapologetically brash, a city built for leisure, commerce, and selfies. The Whitsundays aren't just islands, they are a brand. 74 islands, blue waters, and prices so inflated they make Sydney real estate look reasonable. Every Australian has heard of them, and every tourist thinks they're a must-see travel destination. And yes, they are spectacular. But don't kid yourself, paradise isn't cheap. And it isn't empty. The Whitsundays sit along Queensland's tropical coast, roughly halfway between Brisbane and Cairns. Most of them are uninhabited and protected as national parks. They were formed by the sinking of a mountain range millions of years ago. What remains are lush green islands rising sharply from the sea, fringed with beaches and coral reefs. Only a handful of the islands are inhabited, so there's a lot of untouched paradise out there. Captain James Cook sailed through the area, naming the passage Whitsunday Passage because he believed he had arrived on Whitsunday, the Christian holiday. Guess what? He was actually a day off, but the name remained. The Whitsundays have a reputation for being both glamorous and adventurous. On one hand, they're home to high-end resorts and luxury yachts. On the other, they attract backpackers, divers and sailors looking for coral reefs and open water. Hamilton Island is the Monaco of Queensland. Cars are banned, golf buggies roam the streets like slow, silent predators. Resorts line the beaches, and the airport welcomes direct flights from Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. This is where the wealthy simply come to play golf and enjoy life. In 2003, it was bought by wine mogul Bob Oatley. His investment turned the place into what it is today, part resort, part luxury compound, part marketing machine. Whitsunday Island sits in the middle of the Whitsunday group, between Hamilton and Hook Islands. It's also the largest island here, and known for a very special beach. Whitehaven Beach is Australia's most famous beach. The sand is 98% silica, which is why it squeaks under your feet and never burns you, even in the Queensland sun. It's surreal, beautiful, and absolutely packed in peak season. Among Australians, Whitehaven Beach is hyped to death. Every travel magazine calls it the best beach in the world, at least once a decade, and honestly, they're not entirely wrong. Beyond beaches and boats, the Whitsundays offer a surprising amount of land-based adventure. Trails on Whitsunday Island, Hook Island, and Hayman Island provide panoramic views of the reef and the ocean beyond. Birdwatchers have a field day. Sea eagles patrol the skies, while rare species hide in the dense underbrush. Millions of people descend on these islands each year. Hamilton Island alone sees over 300,000 visitors annually, and that's just one island. Most tourists are Australians escaping winter, plus a flood of Europeans, Americans and Asians chasing the ultimate island life vibes. Accommodation ranges from budget hostels at around $50 Australian per night to luxury resorts that can hit $2,000 per night. Peak season drives up prices even further. Forget the beaches. Queensland's Outback is where the heart of the state truly beats. It's a land of extremes, scorching sun, endless red dirt, vast skies, and towns that feel frozen in time. For travellers looking for authenticity and landscapes, this is it. Central and western Queensland stretch across thousands of square kilometres. There are flat plains interrupted by low sandstone ranges and deserts that seem infinite. The Channel Country, with its network of rivers and floodplains, turns into a temporary paradise after rain. Meanwhile, the Simpson Desert brushes the western edges with vast sand dunes and remote tracks. Gorges hide waterholes, crucial to both wildlife and travellers. Lakes, some salty, some fresh, dot the land. European settlers arrived in the 19th century, bringing cattle stations and sheep. Mining soon followed. Populations are small, sometimes a few hundred, but the history and character are enormous. Cattle stations in central Queensland are legendary. Large properties, dusty roads, and stockmen riding under the hot sun. In western Queensland, mining dominates. Mount Isa, a city that sounds small but is industrially mighty, extracts zinc, copper, and silver. The life thrives here because people adapt to the extreme, not because the land makes it easy. Tourism here is limited but rewarding. Accommodation ranges from pubs and motels in tiny towns to higher-end outback lodges. Prices are higher than coastal areas, reflecting the challenges of transporting goods. The climate is punishing in summer, more forgiving in winter. You should bring water, sunscreen, patience, and a sense of humour. And remember, distances are deceptive. A short drive may take hours. Travelling through central and western Queensland requires planning. Roads can be long and unpaved. Mobile coverage is patchy, and fuel stops are few and far between. A car, preferably a four-wheel drive, is essential. Road trains, giant multi-trailer trucks, rule the highways. Respect them and give them room. They will not negotiate. Townsville sits on the northeast coast, halfway between nowhere and the Great Barrier Reef. It keeps introducing itself as the unofficial capital of North Queensland, which is like calling yourself the funniest person in your friend group. If you have to say it, maybe it's not true. The place is named after Robert Towns, a 19th century businessman/slaver whose empire was built on blackbirding, a friendly euphemism for kidnapping South Pacific Islanders and forcing them into labour. So Townsville's origin story is, let's say, morally complicated. Townsville hugs the Coral Sea, about 1,350 kilometres north of Brisbane. Should you drive it? Only if you've lost a bet. Fly it? Much smarter, since there's an airport with domestic flights. The city sits between the tropical rainforests to the north and the dry Outback to the west, which makes it geographically fascinating. Half jungle, half desert. About 200,000 people live here, which makes it the largest city in northern Australia that most outsiders have never heard of. It's big enough to have traffic jams and crime statistics, small enough that you'll still bump into your ex-wife and her new boyfriend at the grocery store. Locals like to remind you endlessly that Townsville is not a mining town. True, but its economy has been propped up by everything from sugar and cattle to military bases and nearby mines. Denial is an art form here. Magnetic Island, or Maggie to the locals, is Townsville's crown jewel. A short ferry ride away, it's all palm trees, koalas, hiking trails and beaches that make Townsville itself look like an afterthought. It's part of the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, yet it has a geography that feels more rugged and Australian than tropical paradise. The island has 52 square kilometres with 25 bays and beaches hidden between massive granite boulders. Much of it is covered in dry eucalyptus forest, not dense rainforest, which makes it unique compared to other tropical islands. Nearly 2/3 of the island is national park, without the overdevelopment seen in many resort destinations. The name comes from Captain James Cook, who in 1770 thought his ship's compass was affected by the island's rocks. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. But the name stuck, and so did the reputation for mystery. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef system on Earth, and a living barrier that protects the coast from the full force of the Pacific Ocean. It stretches for thousands of kilometres along Australia's northeast coast, a natural wonder, a UNESCO site, and a world icon. The reef hugs the coastline of Queensland, running roughly 2,300 kilometres from Bundaberg in the south to Cape York in the north. It's not just one reef, it's nearly 3,000 separate reefs and around 900 islands, a patchwork of coral formations, sand cays, mangroves, lagoons, channels and deep drop-offs. Together they cover about 344,000 square kilometres. That's bigger than the UK. Within Australia, the reef has a kind of dual reputation. It's a point of national pride, but also a symbol of worry. Coral bleaching events have made headlines, and Australians know it. The reef is vulnerable, endangered even. That's why visiting is not only fun, but oddly urgent. People go because they want to see it before it's too late. The reef is huge, so there's no single entry point. Instead, there are gateways along the Queensland coast. Cairns is the most famous hub. With its international airport, this is where most tourists start. Dozens of boats leave daily, heading to outer reefs, pontoons or islands. Cairns is backpacker central, but also home to luxury tours. Port Douglas is quieter and more upscale. From here, visitors can reach pristine outer reefs such as Agincourt. No, people don't live on the reef, but about 400 types of coral, 1,500 fish species, and 30 species of whales and dolphins can be found here. For over 60,000 years, Indigenous Australians have lived with, on, and around the reef, treating it not as a tourist attraction, but as a living part of their world. Then along came Europeans. Shipwrecks littered the reef. Captain Cook himself famously banged his ship Endeavour on it in 1770. Ever since, humans have been alternately admiring it, plundering it, or trying to save it from themselves. The reef was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1981. Since then, it's become the poster child for both ecotourism and environmental guilt trips. "See it before it dies" has practically become the unofficial slogan. That's charming. Ever heard of Wallaman Falls? Probably not, unless you're the kind of person who memorises obscure trivia about tallest waterfalls in Australia. Australia doesn't do small. Snakes are long, distances are endless, and waterfalls, they come in record-breaking sizes. Wallaman Falls drops 268 metres in a single plunge, the highest permanent single-drop waterfall in the country. The falls are part of the Wet Tropics World Heritage Area, one of the oldest rainforests on Earth, roughly 150 million years in the making. European settlers came, logged the hell out of the rainforest, and then slapped a national park badge on what was left. The falls themselves are fed by Stony Creek, a tributary of the Herbert River. Stony Creek gathers up all the tropical rainfall from the Giringan Plateau. At the top, there's a decent lookout platform where you can stand, snap a photo, and pretend you're deeply connected to nature. That's the easy option, but there's also a track down to the base. It's steep and slippery. Going down is fun, but coming back up feels more like punishment. If you want to travel to the falls, well, that's kind of complicated. There's no bus that drops you politely at the viewing platform. You'll need a car, ideally one that doesn't fall apart when faced with steep climbs and potholes. It's a bit of a pilgrimage, but that's the point. Wallaman Falls is not for casual travellers. It's for people willing to endure torture in the tropics just to say, yes, I saw water fall off a cliff. The Daintree National Park sits in far north Queensland, about 2 hours north of Cairns, and it has a reputation for being both ridiculously beautiful and mildly terrifying. It's around 180 million years old, older than the Amazon and older than Australia as a continent in its modern sense. The park takes its name from Richard Daintree, a 19th century geologist and photographer. He never saw the rainforest itself. He was more interested in goldfields further south, but apparently Queensland likes naming World Heritage wonders after people who barely showed up. The park sprawls across 1,200 square kilometres of dense tropical rainforest, rivers, gorges and beaches. It stretches from Mossman Gorge in the south to Cape Tribulation in the north, where the rainforest literally collides with the Great Barrier Reef. To reach Daintree, you have to fly to Cairns, then you'll drive north along the Captain Cook Highway. After Mossman, you hit the Daintree River Ferry, which is the only way across, since there's no bridge. By the 1980s, logging nearly destroyed large parts of the Daintree. Protests, chains, and international shame campaigns eventually halted the destruction, leading to its inclusion in the Wet Tropics World Heritage Area in 1988. The cassowary is the official "please don't touch me" bird of Queensland. They can outrun you, outjump you, and if necessary, deliver fatal kicks with its clawed feet. Without cassowaries, the rainforest couldn't survive. They eat fruit and spread seeds across vast distances. There are two types of crocodiles in Australia. Freshwater crocodiles, a bit shy, relatively harmless, unless you stick your hand in their mouth, and saltwater crocodiles, the salties. The Daintree is salty country, and salties are not shy. They are apex predators, 4 to 6 meters long, 1,000 kilograms heavy, and built like medieval siege weapons. You don't spot them, they spot you. And still, crocodile spotting cruises are big business. You'll sit in a little tin boat with a guide. You'll laugh nervously, take a photo, then check 3 times that your hands are inside the boat. Have you ever been down under? Leave a comment and let us know. If you loved this video, hit the like button and subscribe to World Travel Guide.